If I don't try, I don't know what works. I don't know what doesn't work. So you try, you experiment, and you make note of what works. You make note of what doesn't work. If something doesn't work, think about it. Can I tweak it? Do I need to do something different? Do I need to merge two tips together? Because I do that a lot. Do I need to merge two tips together? Try something. My motto for my writing journey is everything is an experiment. So I'm experimenting a lot. So when you find something that works, you just work with it.
What if writing a book is not just a way to transform the lives of many people, but also a way to create financial freedom and leave a legacy? Wouldn't you want to find out just how to do that? Well, that's what this show is all about.
Hi, I'm Hennika Watkins, Porter speaker, coach, author of Podcast Power, and the host of the Entrepreneurial You podcast, inviting you to listen to the Authorpreneur Secrets podcast, brought to you by C. Ruth Taylor, best-selling indie author and the Caribbean's most trusted voice on entrepreneurship. Tune in for inspiration, information, and innovation to write and win with books. Get ready to dominate entrepreneurship.
It's episode 153 of the Authorpreneur Secrets podcast. Greetings, entrepreneurs. I'm so excited about today's episode. We're interviewing another romance writer. This time it's Aminata Coote from Jamaica. She's the author of over 35 books. And we had such a delightful conversation about what led her into writing, how she makes a full-time living with her books by just selling books. So I know you don't want to miss that. I'm also going to be sharing the latest in my authorpreneurship ventures. And in the ALLi featured segment, I'm going to be promoting the upcoming self-publishing advice conference that's taking place, I believe, this weekend, October 19 to 20. So you don't want to miss that. Stay tuned.
Your book is the perfect spark to get the fire going in your personal life, career, business, or ministry. Light that book spark today.
Today I have with me Aminata Coote. She's a Christian nonfiction and romance writer. Her love affair with books began with an upside-down copy of Silas Marner. Aminata writes stories that point to a God bigger than our failings and provides hope to others. Her latest series release is Christmas with the Porters, Book 3, A Wife for Christmas. She writes Bible studies and devotionals, and her Christian nonfiction titles include Through God's Eyes, Marriage Lessons for Women, and The Battle Is Not Yours, 21 Devotions for Spiritual Warfare. She's passionate about helping women to understand the truth of the Bible for themselves. And she lives in Montego Bay with her husband and son. So welcome to the show, Aminata.
Thank you for having me, Ruth. It's good to be here.
Yes, at last. You should have been here after the Rocket Writing Challenge because you were technically the winner last year. And so part of that prize was to actually do a podcast interview, and now we're here.
Yes, not got in the way, we understand.
Yeah, thanks for coming on the show. So talk to us about growing up in Jamaica and what's your favorite thing about Jamaica?
Okay, so my favorite thing has always been the beach. You see, I am a beach girl. I am part mermaid probably. But the funny thing about me is my husband will always tell you, I never want to leave my house. And then he's like, but babe, we're going to the beach. And I'm like, I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave. And then I go to the ocean and I'm like, I'm sailing in the rain. But yeah, I love the beach. I love the fact that even though it's not within walking distance, as some people assume, I can still go. And I normally try to get there at least once a year. I haven't made it there this year yet, but it's still on the calendar and I'm hoping to make it. But I just love the fact that we have that, the natural environment that we can go around in. A I love the food. I am a foodie to the heart. So I love our cuisine. I love the fact that we have all kinds of things all mashed up into one thing because we have a little bit of the European, we have the Chinese, we have the Italian, we have the Jamaican, everything is just here and it's just wonderful.
All right, so that is our motto there, out of many one people. So yes, I like when you said you don't like to leave your house, because I am like that. Even just to go to the supermarket sometimes, I have to, put myself in a certain frame of mind, and I love being at home, but some things are best done in person. Let's talk about your author journey. I am so impressed with you. I've been looking at your social media profile. You have a young YouTube channel. Your Facebook page is lit. You have your website, and you are just churning out book after book after book. You are prolific. I can't keep up with you. So how did all of this start? Talk to us about that.
Okay, so all of this started in the second year of high school. So we had you remember when they used to have that little spot check where they came into your classroom and they checked for books? Well, we had one of those one day, and we were outside the classroom, and somebody said to me, she said, "How many books have you read now?" And I'm like, "I don't know," because I never, that this is pre Goodreads and all that stuff. Nobody was counting books and stuff like that. I'm like, "I don't know." She's like, "You probably read enough books. You can probably write one of your own." And I'm like, I never thought of that. I never thought of it. And then I took it as a challenge. So third form, well, this is, okay, so in high school, we were all about the Sweet Valley High and the sweet dreams. So in third form, I'm like, okay, I'm taking up the challenge. And I got one of those letter size pads, the note pads you flip over. A yellow one. No, actually a white one. I still have it. I still have my first handwritten novel. So I was like going through and I was writing it when I had a spare time, and I would pass that on to my little core group of friends, and they would read it, and they would say, "Oh yes, can this happen next?" Or "I think that should happen," and I would consider their options, and I would build that adventure based on what the popular vote was. And I did that for a couple of years, and I went all the way to, I think, fourth form, and then I'm thinking CXCs and all the exam stress, I could not write, and I never wrote anything that was not school related until I think 2007 when I started my blog. Now, how my blog started, I actually have at the time I was working at this company, and my manager, he has a blog. It's myislandjamaica.com, and he was like, "Amy, I think you'd be good at this blogging thing because your communication skills are like that." And I'm like, "Nah." And then things got a little bit unstable in the work environment. And he's like, "I am making an income from this. Why don't you try it?" I'm like, "Okay, fine." So I started a blog, and I was doing Bible studies. So I started my blog like September 25. And like the 28th, I found out about this October challenge, right? 31 days. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to do that because that way I can get some content fast. Of course, I didn't know anything about blogging. I literally was learning how to use the platform at the same time. And then with my smart self, I chose the topic of marriage. So I was like, okay, I can do 31 days on marriage because I was a newlywed at the time. And I was like, yeah, I'm excited. And I started studying the stories, and I was doing them like, I would like do a little snap of like the couple, like imagine a conversation with them or how their life may have been. And then I did a deep dive into the life and the lesson that we could learn. And eventually that became one of my first books. That was what transferred to the Through God's Eyes, Marriage Lessons for Women. So I actually compiled that book a couple of years later. But I still wasn't writing fiction. I tried nano several times and I failed it several times. And then finally, I think, I want to say 2021, I started writing a book. But here's the funny thing about it. I actually finished the book, but I didn't realize I finished the book until like 2 years later, when I went back and I was thinking about other books that I've written, and I was like, but I didn't finish that one. I mean, it's not perfect. It's like I have blanks in it. But I tried it in 2021, and I said, okay, I'm gonna do this book. And I wrote. I did not finish it in 30 days. I did not finish it in 30 days, but I did finish it, and that book is now available. It's His Perfect Match. So that book is actually out. Yeah. So, and then I was looking for people on YouTube, and I found this lady named C. Ruth Taylor. And she was saying, how she has wrote a book in 24 hours. And I was like, no, miss, it cannot be done. It cannot be done. And so I decided to take the Rose Challenge and I took the Rocket Writer Challenge. And that is where I started writing. And I have not looked back.
Wow, that is fabulous. Sometimes you are doing your thing and you don't always get the feedback, because I remember there was a time when I thought I was just going to shut down the group because there wasn't much feedback, and I just like, am I really helping anybody? But now hearing you, that the challenge has inspired you to be writing fast, because you write very fast and they're not all like say 30,000. You're writing more than that. You're writing decent novel length books and you're doing it fast. And so congratulations and thanks for letting me know about that impact. And then you say YouTube, because I have a small YouTube channel. So to actually hear that it helped somebody, despite it being a small channel, that is just awesome.
I sent my cousin your book because she wants to write a book, and I sent her your story, and she said, okay. I believe she bought the Kindle version after she listened to the audiobook. So that's 2 people.
Well, which book is that? The Rocket Writer?
The Rocket Writer, yes.
And of course, what I've done is to build a course around it now. So if they go to the website, authorpreneursecrets.com or extramileja.com, they can get the Rocket Writing Masterclass. And within that is the ebook and the audiobook, as well as an introduction to authorpreneurship. So I've just put everything together and said nobody has an excuse now.
I told her all of that. No problem.
Awesome sauce. All right. So let's look at this series. I am so proud of you, Aminata, because you're writing and you're making a living selling books. You're not doing books and something else. But just books. And even though you've not been doing that in terms of making a living, this is all you do for long, you're doing it. And it is so good to find Caribbean people who are doing it, because a lot of the persons that I know who are doing it, they are in North America or Europe. And that is why I wanted to have you on the show, so that we can see an example that yes, it can be done, and it's not just book and something else. The authorpreneurship journey, Caribbean people like us, can make a living with just selling books. And so I want you to talk us through that. Tell us the kind of romance books you write and how you learn to market book to be doing what you are doing. I'm going to be all ears. So take it away. Take it away.
Well, I've listened to a lot of podcasts. I prefer the ones on YouTube because it's just more user-friendly for me. So I listen to a lot of authors, and I can't always tell you where my inspiration comes from, but it's in my head. So when I go to do my stuff, it's there. So one of the things, several things came out, and that is what I'm trying to implement. So I'm going to just share the things that I'm trying to implement in my business, and maybe it will inspire somebody else. So one of the things I do is I create a universe. I created a universe because I said I don't want to try to write about real places, because I don't want anybody to be offended or insulted or hurt when I don't do it right. So I created an island. It's called Saturn Island, and it is loosely based on Jamaica, of course. But I also include anything I like. So I had a book where they had the steel drums, because I love the steel drums, and I have different little aspects of different culture that I love, right? So that's the first thing I did. I decided to create a universe where my books are going to be set. So right now, my island is not fully populated because I only have a couple of states or like parishes, but I plan to fill that out in time. So what I decided to do when I started was, I heard a lot of writers say that one of their greatest regrets was that they wrote multiple genres, multiple series all at the same time. So one of the things I decided to do is I'm like, okay. And this is me in 2022, where I had already written the books I had planned to publish. So I was at a point where I was feeling very good. I didn't realize all the work I was putting myself out for. But I said, okay, I'm going to publish all of my books in the same year for the one series. Now, I love trilogies. I love 3 books. I don't really like a lot more than that. I do have a couple of series now that are going to be 3. I have 3 to 5, but my sweet spot is a trilogy, right? So I said, all right, I'm going to publish them. And I said, okay, I know people were talking about rapid release and they were talking about a book a month, but I was like, no, that is not sustainable for me because I don't want my readers to be expecting a book every month and I cannot produce that. So what I said is, okay, I looked at the calendar and I said, all right, I'm going to give myself 2 clear months between every release. So my release date is February, May, August. Those are my official release dates, right? And I'm going to finish the series in that year. So you know that once you start an Aminata Coote series, for the most part, my trilogies are going to be finished in that year. As I said, I have a couple of exceptions and I'll talk about that later. So that was the second thing I did. So the next thing I did was I was like, okay, I want them to be interconnected where you have something in common, but not so interconnected that you can't read them out of order if you chose to, right? So that was another thing that I implemented. So my perfect series, so it's his perfect wife, his perfect match, his perfect family, his perfect choice, right? All of those. So his perfect wife, ironically, funny story about that. That's actually when I was deciding to publish, I said, okay, I need a prequel because I need something to use as a newsletter magnet so that when my readers, I mean, nobody knows who this girl is from anywhere. I need something to entice them to say, okay, hey, try this new author, try this thing, try my newsletter. So I said, okay, I set out to write his perfect wife. I think that was a nano book 1 year, but I never finished it nano. I finished the following year, but I still tried. And what I said was, okay, I'm gonna do Tanya's story because Tanya is a precursor to his perfect match, right? Funnily enough, Tanya's story, she was supposed to be a novella, but the girl had too many things to say to end up being like 65,000 words. So I was like, okay, fine. I should have figured because Tanya has a little bit of a sassiness to her. So I said, okay, that's fine. I'm still gonna put you out there. It's still gonna be my freebie, so it's still gonna be out there. Now I also I also put the book up for sale. So if you don't want to join my newsletter, no problem. You want to buy the book on Amazon? Go ahead. I don't mind. Either way, I benefit, right? The other thing I decided to do is I decided I was going to be wide. I am not going to be in Amazon because there were too many horror stories coming out about authors who lost their accounts and how much earning they actually lost because they put all of their eggs in Amazon's basket. So that was the other thing I decided to do. I said, okay, I'm gonna be wide. But then what I said is I started listening to how wide authors were publishing and how they were marketing their books because you put your book out there and then you do nothing with it and nothing happens, right? Now, one of the things, if you went on my Facebook page or my Instagram, you'll see that I routinely promote my book on these other platforms, right? That was something I learned from listening to somebody. I wish I could give you credit, guys, but I really don't remember your name. But the other thing I did was a best practice. I started doing a weekly newsletter. Before I had a book published, I started a weekly newsletter. So I was talking about, the characterization and what I was doing. So that was something I decided to do. And I decided on weekly because one, I was used to it because I had a website before and I was doing a weekly newsletter. So right now I actually have 2 newsletters. So I switched the favorite to twice a month and well, every other week. And then I do the author letter every week, right? So that was also something that I did. The next thing I did a lot of newsletter swaps. So I joined a bunch of groups with clean authors because it's very rare for you to find a Christian only space like that. So I went on and I found Keen and Christians and I went there and I did swaps. And I know people are going to think, but I only have 2 people on my newsletter and one of them is my mother. They won't swap with me. That's not true. Most of these people are so lovely. They are very helpful to new authors. They're very welcoming and they will basically just share your stuff for you because it's a community. And as the 50 books people say, 20 books people say, it's what a rising tide lifts all boats. So they actually love to support new authors. So I did that. Am I missing anything? Oh, I also did Brian Cohen's course, his free 5-day challenge, and I experiment with ads. I don't know how I'm doing, but all I know is that when I stop my ads, I sell less books, and when I start them, I sell more. So I got a couple of ads out there. I don't know what I'm doing, despite what Ruth says. I don't know what I'm doing, but that's what I'm doing right now.
Wow. You don't know how proud I am of you, because there's always something at the back of my mind that what these Americans, what these North Americans are teaching, that it not
Mhm.
gonna work for us in Jamaica. And so what you are telling me is that, well, it works because you have not shared any strategy that I haven't been hearing the authors who are doing well doing. Summarize for those who are listening, because this is an episode we want to listen to over and over. And thankfully, Aminata is going to be on the summit. She's going to be
All
sharing
right.
in the, yes, she's going to be sharing in the opening session with the book marketing guru himself, Dave Chesson, founder of kindlepreneur.com and Publisher Rocket. You need Publisher Rocket to help with the Amazon sales and ads and stuff. And so you both are going to be sharing in that session. And so I want to invite persons to come on out January 24th, 2025 at 10 a.m. on this same YouTube channel for day one of the summit. And you can come and ask her your questions. But for
Oh my
now,
God.
yes, exciting. Right? To recap what you've said, you basically have a plan. And
Mhm.
my philosophy is that life doesn't get better by chance, it gets better by design, which has to do with intentional planning and picturing what you want. And so I can say that your author journey won't get better without a design. And so
Mhm.
you had a plan for what you wanted this thing to look like. You built your universe, as you said. You had a content release schedule or a book release schedule. You would write, and you're hearing the keys, writing series.
Mhm.
You had one that was like a lead magnet first in the series, free, that little one there that you did. And you use newsletters. You know, I find that many of our authors, they just want to write the book and put it out there. They follow up to build a mailing list and a tribe. So you don't know how honored I am and excited to meet one of us who is actually doing it. And finally, the last thing she mentioned is that is the education aspect. She listened to a lot of podcasts and she's part of community. And so those are some of the tips. You cannot do this thing by yourself and you need to be
Mhm.
willing to learn. What else you want to add to that?
Oh, I forgot one very key thing. As a Christian author, one of the things that I do is I learned this from Shelley Hits. I have a weekly business meeting with God. I have a book. We have a time on the calendar. I sit down. I say, okay, God, this is what I did this week. This is what I want you to do. And I'm not saying anything to you, Ruth, but I don't know why it works. I don't know how it works. But I can tell you that when I started my business meeting, I was making like $30 a year. So, and now I can actually say, well, Ruth is actually calling me to say, oh, you're making a living. Yeah.
Yes,
So
yes.
God did it. That's all that I'm saying.
Wow, that's lovely. Anyway, your nonfiction.
Mhm.
Uh, does your fiction outsell your nonfiction? Talk to me about the balance and what's the difference in marketing both the fiction and the nonfiction.
I think, well, okay, my fiction does outsell my nonfiction. I didn't even do the percentage because it's really dramatic. I think part of it is because I haven't quite figured out how to market the nonfiction yet. I have a couple of ads up, but the ads don't work for me as effectively as the fiction ads. The newsletter marketing doesn't seem to work as effectively as the fiction marketing either. So I don't want to talk about it yet, but I have a theory that I want to test for 2025, God's willing. And I want to see if I can get some more traction on that. But even within my nonfiction, I do have some books that outsell others. For example, I have a book, it's Royal Lessons for from the Book of Esther for teenagers. I find that that one is a very good seller, and I find that people tend to buy those in batches. So for example, I will see like 20 copies move one day, and I suspect that it's a group that's using it, because I actually had an organization reach out to me a couple of years ago, and she was saying that they're using my book with this group of young girls, and they wanted, me to contribute, which I did. But I suspect that happens sometimes, because it's a very detailed Bible study on the book of Esther, geared towards tweens, teenagers. My other good, very well-selling book is a book of affirmations. Funny thing about that affirmations book, I didn't plan to write it. I actually wrote a blog post called 50 Positive Affirmations, something like that. I don't remember. But I had a friend, she said, we call her, my husband and I, we call her the HR manager. She reached out to me and she said, Amy, why don't you write one affirmation book? You won't have to start from scratch. You have 15 on your website. Just take that and stretch it now. And I was like, I don't have time to do that, because I was in the middle of some project. I don't remember what project. And she's like, no, man, you're going to do it. I'm like, okay, fine. And I did it. And I was surprised at how that book actually sold, and it's still selling today. So I thank her. Denise, thank you. Yeah. So I'm going to test the marketing for the nonfiction, and I'll get back to you. I'm also trying a sneaky thing. I sneak my nonfiction books into my fiction. So I will have characters reading my books. I'll quote myself.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant. All right. So you have an exciting release coming up. It's called A Wife for Christmas. Can you talk to us about this book in that series and why we should get it?
Okay, actually, I released that book on the 8th of October. It is the third book in my Christmas with the Porter series. So earlier I had said all of my books are published within a calendar year, but I had an exception. This is that exception. So last year, I published A Husband for Christmas and A Family for Christmas. And that was a set of twins, Mackenzie and Madison, and they had a twin switch. So both of them fell in love that last year. So this year, the twins are getting married. So A Wife for Christmas is their older brother, RJ, and they're actually having a destination wedding. And so he's falling in love with one of his sister's fiance's assistant. I know that's like a mouthful, but it's funny. So what I love about this is both RJ and Vivian, they're both wounded characters. So he's physically wounded, and he also has some issues with his father because of, the whole family expectations, which I think all of us can relate to. And Vivian, she's emotionally wounded because she had her parents are very emotionally neglectful. So he is, okay, I'm thinking of leaving my job because he's a soldier in the army. And it's like, I'm thinking of quitting because I don't want to die somewhere and my family doesn't know, because he's like an intelligence officer. And he's like, okay, well, I'm not in the position to date anybody. But then he sees Vivian and he's like, no, I think I may need to change my mind, right? And she's in position, she's like, look, I don't know what love is. My parents were not very loving. I don't know how to be in a relationship. But over the course of time, these two people are going to learn that when they open up themselves to somebody who is trustworthy and who can take care of their heart, and they can find love. I also have it, of course, because it's Christian romance. I also have it that they're actually deepening their relationship with God. They're both learning lessons that can help them to open up, because one of the lessons that Vivian learns is that love is inclusive. It's not exclusive like her parents had taught her, so she can open her heart to more people. And RJ is learning that, look, everybody has expectations. You need to communicate them, because you can't be having this animosity with your father and thinking you're going to go to heaven. So you need to deal with that issue right now. So both of them make each other better, and they come together, and they're just like, it's such a cute couple. I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, I read the story last week, and I'm like, oh, that's so nice. And then I'm doing the fourth book. So technically, Jackie is not a portrait sibling, but she's also at this destination wedding. And she was in love with the guy from the second book. And now she's stuck as his bridesmaid in his wedding party. And she's like, why am I so unfortunate? Because she's been in love with this guy since like high school. And then he married her older sister. And now he's getting married again, and the bride is still not her. But in the course of time, she's going to learn that really and truly what he felt for Xavier was not love in the first place. It was just a crush. And the next thing is that she had her wound is that basically she was comparing herself to her sister for her entire life. I mean, her sister has been dead 4 years now, and she's still comparing herself to her older sister. But she has to learn that, look, that's not right. You need to release and become the person that God created you to be. And then she meets the secret billionaire, and he's pretending to be he's pretending to be somebody else. Yeah, so that's just fun.
So I was saying, don't tell us anymore. We need to go get the series because now my interest is piqued, right? And
Yeah.
so people go get Aminata's books. How many books do you have now?
I hate this question. I don't know. I'm
Because
at 30.
I'm on the site and it's
something.
a lot.
I know. I think Amazon credits me with 39 books, but a couple of those are what's the thing? I have 2 notebooks. I don't really count those. And then I have 2 writerish books. So we'll just go with 35 plus. That's a good number.
Wow. Wow. You're like a writing machine. And this book, A Wife for Christmas, is #1 in new releases. See, there's the big #1 orange badge, #1 new release, and it's in 3 different categories.
Lovely.
Wow. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Wow, wow, wow. Keep up the good work. Final word of advice. What would you say to those who are thinking about this or they have not been selling books?
All right, so that's actually 2 different issues. I'm going to do them separately. All right, if you are a new author and maybe you've published your first book, maybe you're still working on it, I'm going to tell you, find a way to get to the end. That was a problem for me. I had to figure out how to get to the end. So for me, what I do is, and again, this is advice I heard somewhere, what I do is I put a hashtag. So I am not very good at descriptions in the first round. So I will put hashtag something happens here. And I keep writing. I don't stop. So when I'm finished now, I search for the hashtag and I start filling them in slowly but surely. So find a way to get to the end because you can't edit you can't edit a blank page. You can't edit an incomplete manuscript, right? So don't edit while you're writing. Just try to get from point A to the end and just do the best you can, right? And then you can go over and do it as many times as you need to. But don't do it too many times because perfection is the enemy of done. You can literally, I heard an author say he edited his first book 35 times. 35 times rewriting the same book. Don't do that. Don't do that. Just get it to the point where you believe it is as good as it can be. Because here's the thing, even that particular author, I think it was Sean Inman, he said, look, the book didn't get better after 35 times. And I didn't learn anything new after 35 times of rewriting the same book. He said he did not start learning anything new until he wrote a different book. Because that is how you learn. Every time you write a new book, you learn something else. And the thing is, one of the things I do when I am launching a book is I write down my launch lessons. So what I would suggest as a new writer, every time you learn something new, you write it down. In fact, I actually have a book, I call it the Great Big Book of Writing, where I put all my notes in. So when I learn something, that's where it's going to be. Put it down, write it down. So that's for a new person. If you are somebody who you've already established, I'm going to say something similar. Don't stop learning because the minute you stop learning, you stop growing. Listen to people who are smarter than you, who have done the thing that you want to do and learn from them. No, not everything is going to work because, as Wood said, the things that happen that work for North America doesn't always work here. Because even with me mimicking their techniques, not everything works for me. But if I don't try, I don't know what works. I don't know what doesn't work. So you try, you experiment, and you make note of what works. You make note of what doesn't work. If something doesn't work, think about it. Can I tweak it? Do I need to do something different? Do I need to merge 2 tips together? Because I do that a lot. Do I need to merge 2 tips together? Try something. My motto for my writing journey is everything is an experiment. So I'm experimenting a lot. So when you find something that works, you just work with it. If your books are not selling, you may need to do an author audit. Look at your stuff. Are your covers good? Does it match your genre? Does your blurb need to be redone? Are you doing everything that you can possibly do to give this book the best chance? And I know as a writer, you're thinking, oh my gosh, my book is not so good. Because especially if you're independent, you're like, oh my gosh, nobody has validated me. You don't need to be validated. I am giving you permission. You are a writer, you are writing, go write that book, right? Make it the best version you can. Look at it objectively. Find a trusted friend who has some experience. Now, I'm not talking about a teacher who teaches English or maths or whatever. I'm not talking about a person. I'm talking about somebody who's either in the industry who has experience with it, or somebody who reads a lot in the genre that you are trying to be in. Have them read the book and see if it matches the expectations. And in fact, you know what? You read your own book. Because a lot of the times we know when something is not working. We're just being stubborn. We know when the thing is not working, right? So look at it objectively. Pretend that it is not you. That's one of the things I do. I take myself away because I was very shy about the marketing thing too. And I looked at my Instagram and I said, I'm always talking about Tony Shiloh and all these other Christian writers. Why am I? My books are good too. And I said to myself, okay, let's put a degree of separation. So Ami, that's me. Ami is the social media manager for Aminata. And that's my author. So I found that degree of separation, it really helped. And that is why now Ami talks about Aminata stuff all the time. So maybe you need to do that. Put some separation between yourself and your work because it's much better than you realize. It's much better than you realize. Right, that's it.
This has been an absolute delight. And how can persons get in touch with you or get your resources apart from the books being on Amazon? How else, where can we find you on socials?
Okay, so I'm at Aminata Coote for everything. So I'm there for Facebook, Instagram. I am on Instagram. I am on YouTube. I am on Facebook. You can go on my website. It's aminatacoote.com and all of my stuff is there. So, oh, and I also have a faith website. So if you're more interested in the nonfiction side of the business, that's Hebrews12endurance.com. And I have like over 300 posts and it's just Bible study and teaching to the Bible. So, yeah.
Wow. This has been one of my most delightful interviews. Thank you so much, Aminata. Keep up the good work and we'll keep in touch. See you at the summit, God willing.
Okay. Bye. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
Your book is the perfect spark to get the fire going in your personal life, career, business, or ministry. Light that book spark today.
I trust that you enjoyed that interview with Aminata and you're going to rush out to go get her books. Remember, you can go to aminatacoote.com and I'll put the links in the show notes. All right. And now for my latest authorpreneurship ventures. So here's one of the latest in terms of my authorpreneurship ventures. It's the annual Caribbean Authorpreneur Summit. I want you to save the date. It's going to be January 24 to 25 in 2025. It's going to be virtual and this is going to be the YouTube edition. And we are tackling the issue that authors struggle with the most, which is book marketing. So it's going to be book marketing for authors made simple, no holds bar. We are going to be talking about what it is, how to practically do it. And we're also going to be launching a book marketing for authors course that is self-paced during the summit. And that is based on a VIP book marketing webinar that we had at the 2023 Authorpreneur Summit with Michael Laran, Javette Nixon, myself, and Marva Titley Smith. How to get booked on podcast. What are the basics of branding, advertising, marketing, and we take it through a 5-step marketing process for a book, what to do if you're an introvert. All of that is covered. What are some of the best-selling authors doing as it relates to book marketing to be selling a lot of books. So we touch on that. The course touches on that. But for now, save the date. We've confirmed one of the top book marketers and software developers in the world with one of the world's leading website for authors. That's Dave Chesson. So he's going to be our first presenter. You don't want to miss that session. That's Dave Chesson of kindlepreneur.com. So we're going to start rolling out the names. We're going to be touching on YouTube. We're going to be looking at social media. We also want to touch on AI for book marketing. And we want to touch on, new authors who are doing well in marketing. And of course, we're going to continue with our staple presentation, which is Publishing 101, how to publish a book. We're going to be looking at publishing and promotion for that segment. And during the weeks ahead, months leading up to the date, we're going to be rolling out our speakers for the 2025 summit bit by bit. So save the date. And that's it for my authorpreneurship ventures. All right. Now to our next segment. This is our newest segment where I want to promote the Alliance of Independent Authors. So this is a global body for independent authors or self-published authors. It's a community. They promote ethics and excellence in self-publishing. They have courses, they have guidebooks. And if you want to learn about licensing rights and different things, any questions you have on your self-publishing journey, ALLi is there to support it. And they have a podcast, the ALLi podcast. They do inspirational interviews. They give you news, what's happening around the world. They give you marketing advice and tips. But what I want to share about ALLi this week is that they're having their annual conference is coming up, and I'm going to bring that up so that you can see it. That's the self-publishing conference. And this year they're focusing on publishing for profit, which sounds like entrepreneurship, right? It's right up my stream. So let me show you. And the conference is free. All right. So it is free. So register for your free 3-day pass below. So you go to selfpublishingadviceconference.com. I'll put the link in the show notes. Register for your free 3-day pass below. And they've had some amazing speakers in the past, mostly from North America, Europe. ALLi started at the London Book Festival in Europe with Orna Ross. That's in the UK. Yeah, it's going to be 24 sessions over 24 hours. Self-Publishing Advice Conference 2024. Go to selfpublishingadviceconference.com to register. It's going to be the 19th and 20th of October 2024. So remember to like, share, and subscribe to the YouTube channel, and also leave a comment. Subscribe to the podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and let me know how this podcast is helping you. This is Ruth Taylor reminding you of making many books, there is no end. So go, penny to win it, and dominate entrepreneurship. Ta for now, until next time.